good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Equala Leadership Conversation. So excited that you will join us. Please do share the link, do like, do subscribe to the channel so that every time we are on, you get a notification that we are live every Monday, 9 p.m. We are so grateful that you will join us for another new generation conversation. Yes, we are continuing with raising a new generation of leaders. Again, welcome my ambassador. Indeed, I'm making it personal now. My ambassador, the Equala Europe ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
promise I won't hold you to myself. I will share with, you with the world. So,
Mm,
indeed, he is the ambassador of Equala Europe, who is indeed doing a great job mentoring young leaders and current leaders as well, so that they do what is necessary to secure the future for the next generation. Thank you so much for the impact that you've been doing these last few weeks, talking to new generation and also advising the older generation on how they
mm,
can make greater impact on the upcoming leaders. So we're continuing on our topic, new generation of leaders, and today we want to hammer on mentorship, mentoring. What really is mentorship? What does
wow.
it look like? What does it not look like? How do you know if you're being mentored correctly? How do you know if you are mentoring correctly? And some of the thoughts that we have around mentorship. So welcome again to this tonight's episode. Share, subscribe, like with every single young person that you know who
Mm,
aspire to be a leader one day. In whatever sphere of life, this
mm,
conversation is not just about political leadership, but in every
mm.
sphere, politically, spiritual leadership,
Yep. Yep.
business leadership, family leadership, whatever role one might
Mm,
find themselves in as a leader. This conversation will greatly impact their lives as they
mm,
grow. So good evening once again.
mm.
Let's talk mentorship. I'm so excited because I know this is one of your favorite topics.
You know, you, you know, um, mentorship was something that I wish, I'm not complaining, but I wish it was something I knew early days of my life. But I'm so grateful to God that at some point in my life, I ran into this particular word itself. Sometimes it does happen, unconsciously, however, when I ran into my mentor, that was when I actually understood the reason, the purpose of mentorship. By the way, can I just say good evening to all our friends and network and all the people who are still joining and who will be joining this network and watching at a later time as well. It's such a very, very critical time in our nations, in our developing world right now. And this, I believe, is a serious topic
Yeah,
because this must be intentional. This must be happening in every home, in every family, in every organization, in every institution, in every church, in every government.
yeah,
And that is one of the ways to take care of the leadership gaps that we're already having in a whole lot of our developing world. I was thinking about something just today, and emanates from some questions that you've asked me in the past as well. Uh, and we had founding fathers who were very great leaders, and they had uh, some new generation coming under them. They observed them, that they worked on the mentor and things like that. Then along the line, where something just got missing, and we began to have all these gaps and void, and everything just went pear shaped as well.
yeah,
Also, there was a conversation I believe we were having some times ago, and you did, you actually, and Shell, when both of you were on the program with me about 2 weeks ago, you did say two things very important, and you particularly said uh, you believe that the older generation or leaders should give access,
yeah,
to the one of the ways of mentoring is really giving access. And I can remember that your husband was saying something very, that word never left me. He said, I can remember the days, and they were young single men then, that every time we left church, they always would come to my house, and uh and they will come. And my doors were always open. And they would just come and spend time, we eat, and we just talk and talk. And they were just listening. And they went back home and they began to work on all those things. Now, I had learned that. I had experienced that kind of access with my own mentor and our great founder, Dr. Miles Monroe, because his life was literally open. He opened his doors and it would be there pouring out and out. He never stopped speaking. He never stopped talking. He never stopped transferring knowledge. Which brings me to this subject of mentoring. A lot
Yeah.
of times people think that mentoring, I've seen young people say, I have a class, I'm mentoring certain people, and I'm thinking, seriously? I'm not, for years, people were asking me to be the mentors, and I never responded. I
Mm.
never said yes because I didn't just think that I was ready for that because it's a very serious thing. Also, I'm going somewhere with this, because I wanted to give a context to all our audience and to as many people that be watching this, because we need to really break this down properly as well. And I know you've been on my case on this one. I also remembered a group of young ladies, all of you are involved, who were following some all these big stars in the name of ministry all over the place. And suddenly things happened to all those people. The names were dragged in the mud. Some of them beat each other up. Couples, big bishops beat each other up in the car park. And people came back and said, Dad, what happened? I'm thinking, hey, and that is why you got to be very cautious about mentoring. So,
Yeah.
and what are we talking about here? About when we begin to talk about mentoring, because it's got to happen in your home. For everyone that's listening to me, your father, your mother, your uncle, you're the CEO, you're the pastor, you're the head of state, you're the governor, the mayor, the councillor. It's got to happen wherever leadership is ongoing. And
Yeah.
this is how we prepare a new generation. So, what is mentoring? I believe that's what you want to know tonight. Okay.
Yes,
And
please.
please, and also I want to encourage as many people as well. Share your comments as well. Send some things, on our screen as well, because we'll also acknowledge it, and you also be sharing your knowledge with us. But mentoring, that I learned from a great mentor, and I didn't just learn theoretically; it actually practiced it with us. And what is it? One, mentoring is transfer. It's transferring all that you know. That means your knowledge, your experience, what did I say again, your values, everything that help you to become who you are. And that is why for you to be a mentor, you got to be somewhere that everybody is aspiring to go, from starters. So when I
Mm.
see somebody say I'm mentoring somebody, I'm thinking, where are you? I'm not sure that is where I want to go. So when I was looking for a mentor, I found one that was where I wanted to be in every sector. Capital F. So both are in ministry, in relationship, in marriage, in business, in everything I was aspiring for, it was there. So I said, I need this. So it's the transfer, and it's got to be intentional transfer of this. Mentoring is taking what made you who you are, what made you successful, and now passing it to another, giving it to someone else deliberately. And that is why, I said something last week. I said, the moment you come into a position of leadership, you need to begin to plan your replacement or plan when you're to leave. Because if you don't plan your time of leaving, you will not prepare another generation. And that
Yeah.
is why we have a lot of people in leadership today. They don't plan to leave. They never thought about leaving. That's the last thing. They all are thinking about, I'm going to milk this place, maximize everything that's this place for my own benefit. It is a transfer of your deposit of knowledge, of wealth, of experience, of relationships. I remember, my mentor, of old Dr. Miles Monroe, we'll go to a place and say, this is JD, and it would just, those doors would have taken me 30, 40 years to open. And just because I followed him everywhere, it just opened him and introduced me just like that. And say, it's my son, so invite him. Oh, he can do this for you. Everything he knows, I taught him. Now, so you ride on their credibility.
No.
So it's passing your understanding to the next generation. Mentorship is, when your leadership also does not mentor or prepare the next generation, your leadership cannot be deemed to be successful. The way to measure how successful you are as a leader as a father, as a parent, as an employee, as a visionary person, as a CEO, as a government leader, whatever leadership position you're sitting on. The only way to measure how successful you are is not in all the things that you did, is who do you pass on to? Because you might have built great things, but how do you preserve what you've built
What you feel,
when you
yeah.
have not prepared another person to build on top of that, in fact, exceed what you've done? And I think
Wow.
this is things that people. So the first act of true leadership is, one, you identify your replacement and begin to train, develop them as a new generation that are going to come after you. Because the moment you get there, you are conscious of the fact, you are aware that I am going to leave this place. And it applies to us as nations, as organizations, as families, communities, and things like that. So this is where mentorship really begins. It's transparent, and it's got to be a willing relationship between two. You cannot use your protege or your mentoring to abuse those, and that was a fear you were expressing some time ago. So a mentor doesn't really need the mentee. It's the
Mm.
mentee that runs after the mentor. A mentor will not change their schedule because of you, but you will change your schedule to fit into the schedule of your mentee. You, as a mentee, you must be ready to pursue your mentor. You go after them, you go after what they say, you go after what they know, you go after what is in their heart. Most of the time, some people are only just parasites. They're only after what is in your hands, not what
Yeah.
is in your heart. If you go after what is in their heart, you will get what is in their hands. So
Mm.
when I went after my mentor, a lot of people are always around him, but most people were only after what was in his hands.
Wow.
That's the quick thing to go. But we went after what was in his heart. Because if you can key into that, and he taught us that, if you go after what is in my heart, then you can produce the same result that I produced.
Wow.
And this
Wow.
is one thing that I think everyone should really, all of us should be actively doing this.
Wow.
Mhm.
So many things you said, so many questions out of just what you just said. I've got three main questions
Okay.
that's from what you just said. One of the things you mentioned was is that you must transfer all that you know.
Yes. Yes.
Transfer all that you know.
Yeah.
My question then is, could it be peradventure that most people, especially within the older generation, they I don't want to use the word ashamed, but they might not really, because of the way they conduct themselves,
Yeah.
especially politically, could it
Mm.
be that they don't want to transfer what they know because it's not good, hence they're not mentoring? Because if they were to pass on,
Yeah.
it's not a good thing to pass on, so they'll rather just stay there until they go, as opposed to pass on all they know, because again,
Yeah.
they'll be passing on a bad thing.
Well,
Peradventure. I'm just saying, I'm not
yeah.
saying all of
So
them. I'm
I,
just
I, I, I
conversation.
let me tell you something. I totally agree with you. I mean, we're having a conversation here. I totally agree with you. And you would have heard me say quite a few times that a lot of people that who we call leaders, or we assume are leaders or sit in leadership positions, are not truly leaders. And that's why, I always had my mentor say true leadership or true leaders. So they're all manner of leaders all over the place, you know, and most of them are what we call professional manipulators. And ends, there's nothing to pass to you. They're there to manipulate. They got there by manipulation in the first place. And once you get into those kind of situation or position by manipulation, you cannot function in true leadership, because true leadership raises leaders. True leaders always are aware, they have an obligation to the world to serve them and to prepare a replacement. So leaders always, Bill Gates said that. Bill Gates said, in the next century, he said, true leaders are people that raise leaders, empower others, rather. A lot of people in leadership today do not empower anybody, rather they suppress. So once they suppress you, you know already there's no transference. There's no transference that's going to happen there. And this is the situation. And that is why leadership is something that we need to understand very well. The intricacies of it, we've got to understand the concept of leadership so that we can actually function. You see, when you discover yourself, you don't get intimidated by others. You literally, looking for the opportunity. You see people as an opportunity to actually empower and transfer stuff that you have. Because if you don't transfer, the purpose of authority is for you to transfer it.
Yeah.
Power needs to be transferred. It's like you're generating your okay. You have a generator, or you have your like, hey, we don't use generator in the Western world, but you have your power socket. It's just generating power, and it's not transferring the power. It's of no use to anyone, and that is
Wow.
where a lot of our developing countries are stuck.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's a
Mm,
good one on that one.
mm, mm,
What's also popping in my mind is you mentioned about how your mentor was someone that opened doors for you, and you mentioned about it has to, once you go after your mentor's heart, you get what's in their hands. My question then is, how, as a mentor, how would
mm,
you know what's in someone's heart? And even as a mentee, how can you show what's in your heart? Is it something
yeah.
you can, that can be physically sensed or
Mm.
physically seen, or how spiritually sensed? I mean, what are some of the practical steps that you can actually take to say, here is what's actually in my heart? You know, that
Yeah.
person is after your hands, but I'm after your heart. Like,
I think one thing is that we got to understand what mentors do and what mentors don't do, and everybody's got to you really understand this. Number one is that mentors serve as role models. The more I was listening to one of my clips. I was speaking in the Bahamas, and I was speaking on exemplary leadership. Our world lacks models right now. So you got to first you want a model that will you want a mentor that will model everything that is right for where you want to go. So we need role models, and for role models you need access to them. How do they conduct themselves? How do they treat people? How do they treat money? What's their testimony? What is their nature like? Are they people that are irritated by people, or do they embrace people? So they need to be a model for you. And this is one of the things that our world lacks right now. Our world lacks real model, men that will sacrifice themselves, so that people understand that I need to sacrifice because I've seen a model of it. And this is one thing that's lacking. Number two, mentors also are advisors. They're not there to. They don't want to create. What's the word now? They don't want to. I'm looking for the right word to use. They don't want to clone themselves in you, but they want to advise you so that you will. You will be one that is able to. They advise you to be able to develop the things that they see in you that is unique to you. They're not ones that celebrate you too much. They're the ones that believe there's more in you. They,
yeah,
they advise you to stay on the right path, and they counsel you. They're counselors as well. So, and when you lack counsel, sometimes and it doesn't matter how successful you are, if you lack counsel or you refuse counsel, you will end up, a proverb.
mhm,
So you got to understand that your mentor is not just your friend, is your counselor. I can read somebody saying that I'm in total agreement with your submission, Pastor JD, that a mentee should seek out the mentor and not the other way around. Because if your mentor, seeks you, that means it's a process in your life and it will abuse you. Your
yeah,
mentor must not need you. You must be the one that needs your mentor. And people are saying it. I can see some comments saying, let's have a conversation of that. I've seen instances where someone will say from a distance that someone is his mentor, even without the supposed mentor's knowledge. So those people, they don't even know that they have some people looking at, and that is why also our lives are dangerous, because people are observing either the negative or the positive of you, which is
mm,
why we really need to work on ourselves. You asked a question last week about being authentic. We need authentic leadership, men and women that have discovered their true authority. So that, because people are watching you. So we have a lot of people out there in the name of fame and things like that, and people are observing them and doing exactly what they're doing until something goes wrong, until they begin to do some crazy thing and say, because they're doing this because of what they saw. What do
yeah,
mentors do? Mentors guide you. And that
mm,
is why you need a guide, or else you will get lost. Somebody has gone on that journey before as well. And some of them, they've really, hit the bumpy parts, they've gone into potholes, they have scars to show you the battles they've won. And when somebody has won a battle, then that person can actually guide you on, the mistakes they've made, so that you don't make the same mistakes as well. Mentors are tutor. They teach you, they transfer, they teach. Oh my God. My mentor did stuff to us. It didn't just teach us, it will prove again, what it taught you, that is it really sinking. So most of the time, my mentor never really just to he never just did invite anyone from anywhere on his stage, on his platforms, into his space to speak. A lot of people invited him into their space because they knew the quality of stuff in him, but he didn't know the quality of people in all those people, so he didn't just open a space to people like that. So most of the people you find in a space are the people who have gone through his content, and he knows what they're going to release there as well. And that is why it's going to be deliberate. So you're building a nation, you're building a family, you're leaving a legacy behind, and all this what do you call it? You're leaving a will behind. You got to train the people, or else they'll sell off everything. And that's why you see some parents, they don't know what's going to happen after that. Some know exactly what is going to happen after that because they intentionally prepared for it. Can I say another one? Mentors are just examples. The examples to what you do. And the danger about all of this is that, really, can I drop this? Because I can see that our time is running really quick. Can I drop this? Mentorship, the goal of mentorship. Oh my God. And this is why, and this will summarize exactly what you were coming to. And I can see thank you so much. Everyone has commented. The goal of mentorship is to produce one that is better and greater than you.
No.
Can I just drop that in the space, and everybody got to deal with that? And most of the time, where you know true leaders is that most of the people who, in quote, are leaders of today, they're not looking at a new generation that's going to be greater. Rather, they don't even want the generation to exist. And if there's a new generation coming, they must not be greater than them. They must be sub to them. Goal of mentoring is not to clone yourself. It is replacing yourself with a better quality. That is what's right. It's to help others discover themselves, and your successor must achieve more. If your successor is achieving less than you are, then we're not progressing. We're not getting better. That is a diminishing situation that we find ourselves. And that's one key area I believe that a lot of people don't mentor because they're not ready to give anyone that power. In fact, I think I've had a personal experience whereby I was trying to do certain things within the context of a nation and things like that. And the people there believe that if they allowed me to do this, that will be empowering me too much. And you can see that that's a mindset that is so negative. And that is why a lot of our developing countries remaining in the developing front. In fact, sometimes we're not developing, we're literally going backwards.
That is so true. We're not developing, actually. How
I
long
leave it
does
there.
it take to develop?
I leave it. That's because nobody wants
Wow.
it to be better. So we're dealing with the things that we dealt with 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're still dealing with it today.
Yeah.
And it's such a sad situation. But I believe that knowledge is power, knowledge is light. And the more we continue to talk about this, I believe that it will hit home somehow. Mr. Akinolu say, I've seen instances where someone will say from a distance that someone is his mentor even without the supposed mentor's knowledge. No. Mentorship you need access, you need that closeness, you need to see the people, not just from afar. Seeing them from afar is good, but you can't live on that, just under the light. You got to see who are they when there's no light on them. Who are they with their family? Who are they with their loved ones? Who are they with money? Who are they, when they are nothing? Who are they when they're down? What scars? What have they gone through? Have they gone through the very backside of life and they bounce back? What can they teach you? Can they teach you how to get out of the rut and bounce back and get yourself on the mountain? And these are the things that we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, someone's saying some people mistaken role modeling for mentoring. That is
Yes.
so true. That is
Wow.
so true. Wow, time just goes.
I don't know how it goes. I think you just left me. You just give me a blank check, and give me a blank check. I'm going to just be rolling.
We want to talk about modeling because I think that is very vital. Someone is saying role modeling for mentorship.
Yes.
Because I
mm,
see it sometimes that even with fathers within the home, sometimes you see even people that are doing business and they're genuinely doing their business,
mm,
but it doesn't seem to be growing as much as someone who's dubious, cutting corners, blah blah blah. So how can someone be a role model? How can you how do I put this question? Because I know that role models are there, someone like
yeah,
yourselves, but then this generation, we always look at the superstars, like people we don't really know their ins and out. But those
yeah,
that we know their ins and out, we don't
mm,
follow them because they're not popular, because they're not saying
yeah,
the correct things on Instagram, on Twitter.
mhm,
They're not follow. Then they don't have hundreds of followers on Twitter and things like that. How can someone that is truly a leader
yeah.
put themselves, or should they put themselves on a platform to you know
Wow.
be a role model? How do we find?
I yeah, I think I get where you're trying to go. I think you know, true leaders needs to be a model, but it's not just you just picking someone and think that's a model for. No, 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 no. There's a flavor. There's what makes you a model, so to speak, within leadership. Number one thing I think you got to find is you need to find people that or rather true leaders are people who are courageous enough to want to raise others up. A lot of people do not do that. It's a model on its own. You got to be a model of empowering others. A lot of people don't do that.
Mm,
They don't raise leaders. And the purpose of leadership is to raise leaders. Also, you need to be one that is building a legacy for the next generation. Don't eat up everything.
mm,
Don't make everything yours. Don't grab everything. What is it that you're saying? This is for those who are coming behind me.
yeah.
This is not me. I'm putting this on ground because I am aware that someone's coming. So somebody sees that they too they're going to do something, but they're going to be doing something also for the next generation. So that is a model. That's what I call a model. You see
Yeah.
someone that's courageous, they're not afraid to say, no, I'm not going to take all of this. I'm going to prepare something for the next generation. I have the courage to say, it doesn't matter what these people, some people say, oh, you raise these people, they're going to be the ones to fight against you. And so what? But you've delivered, yourself. There, you must be a model of a person that transfers your deposit into another.
Yeah.
you know every time you must be thinking, how does this affect another person or the person that's around me. you know I grew up around fathers or leaders whereby anytime they're eating, and this is just basic, anytime they're eating they never finish their food. They
Mm,
always just leave someone to play because there's someone that's going to eat
mm,
it.
wow.
And that's how fathers must be really behave. You can't Some fathers, they spend everything, so the
Wow.
next generation comes, they're going to start from zero. So really, in some of our developing nations, the culture is we leave debt. We pass on debt
Oh
onto
yeah.
debt onto. So our generations are always having to start from the grassroots. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have things like life insurance. We don't have property legacy that we transfer to the others, so that you might have sacrificed, but the next one it ends.
Wow.
And so as a model leader, you need to measure your success by the success of your successor. Did I
Wow.
say this last week? You need to be one that the way you measure how successful you are is by how successful your successor are.
No.
That's the kind of model that we're looking for. We're not looking for people who it ends with them. No, 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 no. I'm doing all of this to make sure that the person behind me becomes successful. So I am going to be out there watching him to make sure that I have left enough for you to get on with this. There's a story, and dare me, just to use the Bible as a template to do something here. It says in the Bible somewhere that, and David prepared everything that Solomon needed to build the house of God.
No. Yeah.
He wasn't going to build it. He wasn't allowed to build it. Some people, because they're not allowed to build it, they kill everybody
You
else
do
that will try and
nothing.
build it.
That's true.
But
Wow.
he gave everything. The boy just came there, bam, he just built. It wasn't really Solomon. King David, because of what he did. And I think that is where a whole lot of us needs to pitch our tent. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much for that impactful session. That so if I am truly following you, I should end up as a leader myself. So here that's
I'm better. I'm better. I
better.
look, you're gonna be better, you know. So you see, I'll stretch you all the time. Better, better.
Wow, wow, that is something to admire, young people. If you're a young leader coming up, make sure that you know who you're following. Make sure you know who's mentoring you. Don't be mentored by a book because the person is famous and you've got access to their books. You need someone you've got direct access to, and make sure they're making you better than yourself. Better than they started. Thank you so much, Ambassador JD, for this time. This is Itwala Europe Leadership Conversations. We are live every Monday, 9 p.m. Do like, subscribe, share. Even after the broadcast, continue to share your comments. What more would you like to hear from the broadcast? What other topics are you interested in learning from Ambassador JD as well? Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is Itwala Europe, and this is more about what we do. Thank you very much.